Should should former Vice President Joe Biden defeat Donald Trump in the November election, but Biden's victory will cement a pattern that influential Democratic messengers would be wise to exploit savagery in order to change. Um, Many Americans have not yet grasped that every time they have given Republicans the keys to the White House over the past half century, they turn to Democrats to extinguish the fire. This arrangement hampers party priorities each time Democrats come to power because their first orders of business are to clean up the Republicans' messes. Once the country is sturdy enough, the electorate returns to Republicans to get a little extra walking around cash in the form of marginal tax cuts, and Democratic policy goes back underground. This pattern began when Richard Nixon and his successor Gerald Ford presided over a 3-year recession that darkened the outlook for Ford. Before the 1976 campaign launched in earnest, Democrat Jimmy Carter glided into office on a message of reform after the country felt betrayed by the Watergate scandal and Nixon's corrupt inner circle, and of recovery from a poor GOP stewardship of the economy during that time. Um, Ronald Reagan made his first priority slashing tax cuts, and this is going from the legacy of crises going from Reagan to Trump to Ciullini. Um, Ronald Reagan made his first priority slashing taxes, which Congress reversed soon after in a 4-stage response to 1987. Then the Gipper handed the baton to George H.W. Bush, the father, as the savings and loan crisis spiraled out of control. That sent the economy into a recession and led voters to Democrat Bill Clinton. In 2000, a plurality of voters thought the country was on the right track, and 2/3 thought that Clinton had left the economy in good shape, and education was the top issue on the voters' mind. And lo and behold, the George W. Bush tax cuts of 2001 and 2003 were born. The hangover from the GOP's culture of corruption in 2006, the younger Bush's unpopular wars and the financial crisis didn't hurt Barack Obama's prospects against Republican candidate John McCain in the 2008 election, but they limited his ability to accomplish more as a president because he had to stanch the blood spilled and oversee a major economic stimulus. And there's no denying that President Obama brought the country back from the brink and delivered a strong economy to Trump, who in turn pushed through wholeheartedly a major tax cut for the rich, which was his only real legislative achievement, and nothing else. Despite this history, Republicans incomprehensibly enjoyed a reputation for decades throughout much of the country for being better at managing government, but nothing else. The Pew Research Center tracked sentiment moving in favor of Democrats toward the end of Obama's presidency, but it was no match for candidate Trump's marketing failure. If Biden becomes the 46th president of the United States, the carnage he'll have to contend with might be even larger in scope than what President Obama had to face. America's image was deteriorating around the world long before the coronavirus infected anyone in the lower 48. Trump's first Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, had raised the State Department by hollowing out the diplomatic corps and refusing to populate some ambassadorships. Biden should commit to having a full slate of ambassadors nominated before he ever steps out onto the west front of the Capitol to deliver his inaugural address. He'll need all the help he can get abroad. He'll have to rejoin the Paris Climate Agreement and the World Health Organization, patch up a fraying and aggravated NATO, and even repair decimated individual relationships throughout Europe. Domestically, he'll have to undo the extraordinary damage that Trump has done to public health by failing to contain the spread of the COVID-19, and he'll need to recharge the blighted economy. Note that every single one of the aforementioned tasks amounts to cleanup effort versus a new policy priority that can advance the country. Biden himself seems to recognize this. The New York Times reported in May that he said during a fundraiser, "I view myself as a transition candidate." Biden really should be the transition president. Democrats need to remind the country that going back to GOP control would be disastrous. Once the Biden administration completes the Great American Restoration Project in the same way the Republican Party successfully branded Democrats as having negative connotations, it's time to do the same to the word conservatard. Conservatard rule is chaos and invariably requires a massive cleanup. In the subtext, Democrats need to find a simple way to say that they'll get more money into Americans' pockets when times are good. Take away the one strength Republicans have left. And that's